all waterfowl hunting basically comes down to two styles of hunting. You're either A, on the X, you're exactly where the birds want to be and you're just waiting on them to come to you pretty much, or B, you're running traffic and making the birds go where they don't necessarily want to go. Now there's different variances and forms of these two things, but it all basically boils down to some form of one of those two. But today we're going to be talking about running traffic. Now this is my favorite way to duck hunt. I love making ducks go where they don't want to go, because usually this involves a lot of calling, and calling is probably my favorite aspect of duck hunting. But calling isn't the only factor that draws more ducks to your spread. There's a lot of different variables that come into play. First one I want to talk about is location. Now trying to find a location to run traffic on ducks, or geese for that matter, is a lot different than trying to find a location that's the X. The main ingredient you need when looking for a place to run traffic is a lot of birds flying over. You need to be under a good flight path. If you only pull 10% of the birds all morning, well, if you pull 10% of 2,000, that's a lot more than 10% of 100. The more you're going to be under, the more chances you'll have to traffic some of them. One of the main places that we've had success running traffic on ducks are rivers or creeks. Just anything that the ducks are going to fly down to get from point A to point B. If they're flying that river to get from, say, their loaf to their feeding area, and you can get in between the two, man, we've had a lot of luck doing that. Another place that we've had a lot of success running traffic is in between a large congregation of birds, like say on someone else's property or in a rest area or refuge on public, and just getting off that a little bit and getting under the ducks where either they're coming back to the refuge or leaving the refuge. But really, to find a good location, you just need to find a lot of ducks flying, study how they're flying, and what we do after finding a good flight path is we try to find a place that looks suitable for ducks to land, where a duck would land even if we wasn't there. You can't just go set up in a place the duck would never go. You got to find a good looking spot, and the better the spot is, the more ducky the spot is, the more successful we tend to be. We also try to find places with a good hide. Another huge factor when trying to run traffic on waterfowl is weather. I can't tell you how many times we've had a good traffic spot where we're under a lot of ducks, and we hunt it 2 days in a row. The first day we don't have favorable weather, and we can't even hardly get a duck to pay attention to us. We can call all we want, we can do all that we want to do, but we can't even get one to turn. You go back to the same spot the next day on the same ducks and have weather that's in your favor, and you kill a limit in an hour. And that's something to keep in mind when looking for spots to run traffic. You need to hunt them multiple times to know if it's going to be a good spot or not, because every day is different when running traffic, more so than when hunting on the X. You need weather to be in your favor, and what I mean by that is high wind. We usually do a lot better attracting ducks to our spread on high wind days, or at least moderate wind. 10 to 20 miles an hour is my favorite. A hard cold front where the ducks need to get down and feed. It's a lot colder, they're burning a lot more energy, they have to feed. They're a lot more susceptible to being able to run traffic on them because they got one thing on their mind, and that's feeding. On that same note, we've had a lot of success on the really cold days by busting ice, making an ice hole. You know, you got ducks flying from one source of open water to maybe a dry field feed, and you bust a hole somewhere in between that you can get water open. Some of my best hunts of my life have been on ice holes. Big decoy spreads and lots of calling. I can't tell you how much of a difference this makes. If you can get on some open water under a good flight path and put out 100, 150 decoys and have 4, 5, 6 callers, you'd be amazed at the power that is in that. You'll get ducks to do what you never thought you could get them to do. Can you run traffic with just 1 or 2 guys? Yes, we've done it with 24 decoys, 2 spinners, and 2 callers. I mean, we do that all the time. It's a lot easier to make ducks go where they don't want to go with a big spread and lots of callers. I'm telling you, carry 20 or 30 more extra decoys than you think you need, and you'll just be amazed at how much of a difference it can make when you're in the right spot and under the right amount of ducks. I'll also say the windier the better on those days, especially when you got out 150 decoys. You need a lot of wind to make them look real. We've never had good days when it's calm and still and you got 150 pieces of plastic sitting out there floating. Have some way to put motion in the whole thing, and the wind just seems to be the best way to do that, to make it look the most realistic. So a few call-in tips for running traffic is to just get down on them. Get down on them until they respond. And once they've locked on, let off some and just kind of gauge them, read them from there. If you're not getting their attention with your spread, have everybody in the group just hell call on them and to make as much noise as possible. I mean, this is the essence of running traffic. It's very effective. But once they get in there tight, have everybody shut up and just have one or two guys finish them off. One problem you're probably going to run into when doing this on the days when the weather's not in your favor is you will get a lot of ducks to work you. You may break them off their path and they'll come circle you 2 or 3 times and then they go on. That happens a lot when running traffic, when they don't really want to go where you are. In those days, you just have to accept it. I mean, there's nothing really you can do on those days. But what that tells me is that on the right day, I'll get those ducks. So if I find a new spot that I think I can run traffic and I go and we break off 10 groups and they circle and circle, but we don't ever really land any, I know I can come back on the right day with the right wind and the right cold front and we'll kill ducks there. If you're having ducks come look at you, that's a good sign, and keep that place in mind to come back to you in the future. Becoming a better duck caller will make you a lot more successful when running traffic on ducks. Check out this video right here to see 5 mistakes a lot of duck callers make. You can also check out this playlist at the bottom to see some of my other tips. Thanks for watching today's video, and I'll catch you next time, Lord willing, right here on Chasing Green.